I spoke with Mirage's original maker, Bubkez, in a recent video. Link in the description. If you haven't seen it, I suggest you watch it first, as it will explain a lot of what I talk about in this video, which is about its story leading up to CSGO and the present day. Here's the rough timeline of the different map versions. Mirage's story starts with D-Strike, way back in 2004. This was, of course, Bubkez's original version for 1.6, developed for the CPL League at the time. It's essentially Mirage, but with a different terrorist entrance into bombsite B. You can see it here snaking around and going underground before popping up right next to the bomb site. The next part of the Mirage story comes in 2007, when it is ported across into Counter-Strike Source. I downloaded this file under the original D-Strike name, and this port was apparently done by Ted Cashed McElwain. This hero later went on to make maps for CSGO that you might know, like D-Light and D-Season. Isn't it a small world? Running about this 2007 version, it's D-Strike, with the same layout as the original and even featuring CPL logos on the walls. But it's had a graphical overhaul to bring it up to Source standard, and I believe has inspired every Source version of the map since. More on this later. Back to the timeline now, and you can see that the next thing to happen was when Bubkez changed the T entrance, removed the CPL logos, and called the result D-Mirage in 2010. But this was only for 1.6. Source players would have to wait 2 years until they could play it. I couldn't find who the maker of this remake for Source was, but Dallas uploaded it to Game Banana. He didn't claim to have made it, but did say that my friend maked this map. This came out at about the start of 2012, and clearly builds upon Ted's original Source map, which is evident from the side-by-side comparisons. It has had some retexturing, the CPL banners are gone, and of course the terrorist entrance to bombsite B has been changed into the one we all know and love from Mirage. This map is Mirage, for Source. Now finally we get to CSGO, which came out later in 2012. Mirage was ported into CSGO by Mad Max, an impressive 3 days after CSGO's release. Again, it was still based on the same old version that Ted had made way back in 2007, but with yet more retexturing and nicer lighting. I assume a lot of this was borrowed from CSGO's Inferno map, which came with all kinds of nice props and textures that can be seen in this version. Also, we see the fence in middle has been replaced with these black bars. Who knows why this was? Maybe the models used in the CSS versions were no longer featured in CSGO. Or maybe Mad Max wanted to return the style to something more similar to the original 1.6 version. This version of Mirage was used until mid-2013, when Valve released their take on the map. It was teased over on Twitter a few months before it was officially included. And then it was added in June of 2013, complete with a dusty Moroccan theme. The question I want to ask is, which version is this based upon? Is it the original 1.6 version? Or is it Ted's remake? Well, the layouts for all are very similar, so you might ask, who cares? But I do, because I think they borrowed Ted's remake. For a start, the terrorist route to bombsite B. In the original 1.6 version, you climb up into this building, then remain indoors until you're at the site. But not so with the Source version. There's an outdoor bit here, which fans of this map will be familiar with, since CSGO's version is practically identical. Also, you know how at Catwalk you can jump up onto this fence here and into the window? This couldn't be done in Bubkez's original map version. He told me that he doesn't like this change. Well, guess what? This wasn't changed by Valve. It was done by Ted. Get him! Anyway, because of these things, I think that Valve based their CSGO remake of D-Mirage on Ted's 2007 Source version. Plus, Mad Max's workshop submission is in their favourites. Since its official inclusion in CSGO, it has had almost 30 different versions, and incredibly, none of them are particularly interesting. But it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be like Overpass, which has had really large, fun changes since its debut. Mirage's changes are almost entirely bug fixes and optimizations. They represent the fashions and trends the game has gone through since it came out. It got a few updates to patch up spots you could get the bombs stuck in when we went through that bit of history when everybody obsessed about throwing bombs into silly places. The skybox gets opened up quite a bit when we went through the grenade lobbing craze. Following the bullet penetration update the game received in 2014, was it really that long ago? The map got some updates to patch the bugs that cropped up from this change. So rather than to go through 30 different versions, which would be boring, I'll simply compare the oldest version I can find with the newest. And it's amazing how all these patches and updates add up. At first glance, it looks identical to the latest version. But think again. For a map that hasn't changed, a lot has. Take a look at this Dorothée. I didn't mind how it looked before. It was ridiculously detailed and had a high poly count. But you can't deny that the new style and colours suit the map a lot better. The biggest visual change has got to be to the towering castle that stretches all the way around from T-Spawn to Bombsite A. This new material looks less repetitive and the wear more convincing thanks to blended textures. Subscribers to this channel will know that I love this technology. A lot. Perhaps too much, but soon you'll see why. It lets the artist smoothly build up the amount of wear on a surface, and it convincingly eats away at the material that was there before, similar to snow on surfaces in Skyrim, or the bricks in the Crysis 2 tech demo. Also, a big thank you to whoever finally made the tall towers look right. They looked like half-finished renders before, but now feature proper shadows and definition. I think they got this right several times over the years, before a new update would break them again, but they've had them sussed for a while. Valve, please keep. A sad farewell to the distant scenery. At both T and CT Spawn, you used to be able to see the desert stretching out into the distance, with dark mountains and swirling clouds on the horizon. I always liked visual touches like this, as they made Mirage feel like a place, rather than an enclosed kill room of sorts. But I guess not enough people appreciated details such as these, and they did away with them to improve your frame rates by some impossibly small amount. Also, minor details have been changed. The areas beyond the playable zone have generally become less detailed, but then some new details have been added, normally to break up a previously flat bit of skyline. More roofs have been textured as time has gone on. I think this ties in with the skybox being opened up to allow for more grenades, but it does also mean that spectators can view the action from up here without being distracted by invisible objects everywhere. The plant pots on the map used to harbour a sinister secret. They'd change colour when broken, clearly swapping the model for the wrong one. What a great illusion. Now on to gameplay changes, starting with A site. The main route from CT Spawn has been given more cover either side. This can work both ways. Yes, it gives players stood here more cover to guard the site from, but it also gives people at the site more cover from this entrance, and makes it easier to block it off with a single smoke grenade. All things considered, this change makes it harder for the team hoping to use this entrance to reach Bombsite A from. The cover at Bombsite A used to have all kinds of cracks that you could see through. Clearly unacceptable by today's standards, these have been sealed up. Black boxes added to the insides of these crates to ensure that no peeky holes remain. The lamps around Bombsite A have been removed. It seems a shame to reduce detail by taking things away completely, especially since most of them weren't really interfering with visibility unless you went out of your way to make them so. This one took me by surprise. There's a room here at Tetris, but not anymore. It has been bricked up, perhaps to improve frame rates, but maybe also to simplify the background to make players in this area stand out more. You decide. Also, the boxes at Tetris have changed quite a lot. More have been added, changing what kind of cover you have when stood in this corner. I think the biggest difference though is that whereas before you had to jump to get on and over the tallest crate, they're now all at the same height, letting players climb up in the safety of the corner before rushing out as they please. The entrance to Palace has gotten a diagonal wall. This stops players from standing too close to the corner for cover from the site, but its main purpose is likely to give players all kinds of grenade options into the site by bouncing them off this corner. The far wall in Palace also sticks out further now, letting players hide in this corner at the back more easily, taking unsuspecting rushing CTs by surprise from yet another position. Back in 2016, Team Liquid were rushing Bombsite B, and Cold Zero held them off with just an AWP.
The ground there is cold. Oh! What? Jumping double broken! What is it going?
To commemorate this play, Valve added this graffiti to the wall, nicely naming the update Vandalism. The terrorist route to B has always been one of controversy. In Mirage's early days, there were these props that you had to run up, and its appearance would cause players to jump near the top. It was a joke for years, because a jump wasn't needed. As it was clipped, you could simply run all the way up without jumping and potentially blocking your teammates, ruining a B rush. Or at least that's what everybody thought. But in this earliest of versions, you did need to jump. Well, this changes things, doesn't it? We used to think that people were noobs for jumping, when maybe they were just veterans of the game, who had learned to jump on an early version of the map when it was needed. It was clipped up early on, at the start of 2014. Valve must have thought that people would eventually wean themselves off this bad habit, but clearly they didn't, and Valve ended up replacing the whole cursed section with stairs instead. The other side has also changed, going from a ladder to a stack of boxes, which I'm sure that Bobkes, the original maps maker, is happy about. Back in the early days, you could glitch into this wall near CT spawn. You'd crouch, then if you tried standing up and couldn't, walking and jumping forwards would suck you into the wall into a pocket you could see out of, but that other players couldn't see into. As you'd imagine, this exploit quickly became popular, was shown by every YouTuber in existence, apart from me, and was quickly patched out in early 2015. The scaffolding has also gone, cutting the time you spend crouched whilst crawling through this vent, speeding up the access to and from Sniper's Nest. The shop at B has had some substantial changes. I think they're best shown with before and after shots. There were shelves that acted as partial cover in this room, and those that interfered with firefights were either removed or replaced with newer shelves that had a simpler outline. Pretty spinny fans have been added. The room has gotten lighter, messier, and this stack of boxes now sticks halfway through a wall. Compared to a lot of the map's changes, these are recent, most having been made in June of 2018. This window here was opened up a bit earlier. Back in 1.6 in Source, it was boarded up, but sometime in CSGO's lifetime, Valve decided to remove one of the flappy bits, letting players jump through if they positioned themselves just right. Also done in 2018 was an upgrade to the cover at the back of B. It looked a bit shabbier before. Some of this was intentional, some of it Source's fault. The new version looks nicer and has better defined edges, which makes this cover less frustrating in play. There was a phantom weapon sucking bug in these broken walls here. It almost became a prank to play on people, but they've been removed, and with it, all fun has been sucked from the map. Or at least this bit of it. Mid sees two changes worth mentioning. At the top of middle, an extra crate has been added. I assume this was to make the gap between T entrance and the central cover smaller. This would make it easier to land a smoke grenade that could obscure vision between these 2 points. Like so. And the window at the bottom has gotten larger, lost the central support. These comparisons both show paint on the wall behind it, but I'm absolutely sure that at some stage this wasn't here, and was added to make snipers stand out more. And that stupid little tile roof has been taken away. It wasn't needed to boost into window, and was so small it was just a bit fiddly. A narrow ledge now serves a similar purpose, whilst not getting in the way of movement as much. This metal vent cover has been thinned out. You had no problem peering through it from this position before, but from the other side you were concealed rather nicely. The new vent doesn't provide anywhere near as much visual protection. The connector from mid to B has received 2 significant changes. I'm sure that Bobkes will also be happy to see his favourite crate being added back again, letting players from this spot snipe into Palace from the safety of connector. And the other difference being the wall next to the stairs. It used to be thick, solid brick, but got replaced with the wooden bits that you can wallbang sneaky enemies hidden at the foot of stairs. Or indeed, spray back the other way into connector. And what about the apartments themselves? They've had all kinds of changes. CTs hidden in this corner will now have a bit more space. The windows have been widened to be more like they were in Source in 1.6. There used to be a bed in this corner, which was replaced by a smaller, more out of the way chair instead. And a cabinet here has been removed entirely, which I guess opens it up more for rushes and simplifies the outline of the wall. Also, at some point, this infamous spammable wall into apartments was made larger and more bangable. At one early point, at least with current penetration models, even CT rifles couldn't penetrate it, while now, even pistols can. Also, the window models either side didn't even used to match up. It's evident that this part of the map was an afterthought when first ported into CSGO, and the importance of wall banging in this area came later. On the T side of apartments, this beautiful set of drapey fabric things has been taken out to give terrorists more options to pre-grenade bombsite B. And that's it. This video has by no means been an exhaustive list of changes, but I hope it's been interesting. Who knows what the future holds for this map? Maybe, someday, they'll even patch up this hole in the ceiling here.